Hey you guys, it's Cayley. I am back with another What Sold from Last Week video. In today's video, I'll be going over my sales that are happening right now on eBay and Poshmark. Had a little bit of a slower sales week last week, a lot of bread and butter items. So I'll be sharing a lot of the things that really pad my sales, some style-based pieces, some factor stacking, as well as a few bolos thrown in. Let's go ahead and dive right into the sales.
All right, so the sales we're going to be going over today happen between October 5th through the 11th. In total, I sold 111 items, very solid number there, for gross item sales of just over $3,500. My average item sale price was lower. Like I said, I sold a lot of bread and butter stuff, which is good. I'm glad to have a lot of that stuff in my store to help pay the bills. When my average item sale price, not including shipping that I received, was around $32, so a little bit lower than I would have liked. On eBay, I sold 77 items, and on Poshmark, I sold just 34. Over eBay, I sold a little over $3,100 gross, and then close to $900 gross on Poshmark. So eBay was top dog as usual. Let's dive into some of these individual sales. So the first one I am going over is a recent dress that I picked up and showed in a thrift haul. I mentioned that I've been having some luck with formal dresses, but I'm extremely picky as to what I pick up. This one right here is Vintage Alice Designs. I wouldn't say this is a brand that you should memorize, but it is a brand that has some pretty decent styles, such as whimsy goth styles, Y2K styles, and things like that. I thought this one was gorgeous, had lots of really nice details, great silhouette, had some beading. Brown is a very trendy color right now, so somebody could be buying this for a formal event, prom, like all of that stuff. I listed this for $125 or best offer. I originally paid $7 at a thrift store, and I quickly accepted an offer of $95 to get the item moving super quickly. This one only sat for a couple of weeks. Next up, we have an LL Bean item. You're going to hear me talk a lot in this video about reworking items, which just means items that have sat longer than 90 days and needed a refresh because they didn't sell within my expected window, or they might be items that I originally picked up out of season and now we're in their appropriate season. And so we ended and got those sold to refresh them in the algorithm in their appropriate season. So when I say reworked, that's what I mean. And I have a new strategy regarding aged items that I'll be sharing with you hopefully soon in a video upcoming. As I mentioned in a recent video about my new business plan of cutting inventory in half, reworking items is a big part of what I do right now to make sure that they have one more chance to sell before flushing them out. So this was one of those items. I listed this a while ago and it has been price dropped because of that. This one is an item that we just got reworked, and it is an LL Bean mixed sort of coat, and coats like this sell really well for me where they are mixed materials such as mixed real leather or faux leather with Sherpa. Very, very trendy combination, and LL Bean is an excellent brand to look for. So with the dropped price on this, it ended up selling for around $50, and we originally picked this up from the bins. Next up, we have a coat from the brand Helly Hansen. This one also took a while to sell and had been price dropped. Helly Hansen is a brand that for me does not sell well all year, but it sells really well during fall and winter. So this is probably why this one is selling now. Helly Hansen sells a lot of snowboarding, winter gear. I particularly focus on the men's stuff. That's what does the best for me in outerwear. This is a men's jacket. It is also a size extra small, and that's probably one of the reasons it also sat so long. Here is their logo with an HH. It is a brand, especially at the bins, I would consider picking up if you had an outerwear piece. This one again got price dropped, and it ended up selling for my dropped price of $47. And again, I got this one at the bins. This one took several months to sell. Next on, this is a recent pickup. This one you've probably seen in a thrift haul. It is a J. Crew piece. As a category, I love selling J. Crew blazers. They flip very well for me, both men's and women's, and especially when I can find a more unique, luxurious one like this where it's got velvet or cashmere or wool, some kind of interesting pattern, something substantial going for it. I actually did a style search for this one. This was called the Willa blazer. It was in a size 4, and pink is also a very trending color right now. Very feminine looks are very trendy, and so this one had a great combination of all. So much so that I was willing to pay up for this item. I actually paid $10 for it. I listed it for $60. It sold very quickly on an offer to watcher for $51. This one took about 2 months to sell, which is pretty quick for J. Crew blazers. All right, next up, this is probably my favorite sale this week just because I love being able to prove the power of style and not brand. So this is a Maurice's women's dress, and it just simply had a ton of great factors going for it. The dark florals, the longer length, the silhouette of the item, the bow in the back, even all the way down to the scrunching details on the straps. Very, very much on trend. This could have gone so many different ways, but the ones that I chose to use for keywords were fairy and whimsy goth and Y2K. So this one performed really well, and it is a pre-owned size extra small Maurice's dress that sold for my full asking price of $45. I paid $5.49 at a thrift store. This one did take a few months to sell, but to sell Maurice's for a full asking price of $45 in about 90 days is perfect for me. Another style-based dress, I have really good luck in both dresses and tops for style-based stuff. This one is an R&B, not a brand that I would memorize, but has some decent Y2K styles in the brand. This one's a strapless mesh whimsy goth dress. I used lots of keywords: fairy, whimsy goth, Y2K, even sheer was also a great keyword to put in the title because buyers that are looking for this stuff do appreciate sheer details. And so where that word may not be good to include for certain aesthetics in the whimsy goth style, it is. I listed this one for $40. It sold for my full asking price of $40, and this one took a couple of months to sell. This was an item that just got reworked. So again, listed in the inappropriate season, sat, then we got it reworked, and now it has a ton of interest and sold almost immediately. This is the brand Pure Amici. I do like finding this brand in cashmere. I picked this one up originally for about $350. When it got reworked, we listed at $45 or best offer. That's just to move it out, slapping best offer onto it. And somebody quickly sent me an offer for $35, which I went ahead and accepted. After getting this relisted on October 2nd, it sold on October 6th. So just 4 days to sell after a relist tells me that it did refresh the item, and I made a quick sale and made my money back. This is the brand Rip Skirt, and I wanted to share this sale because you probably know this brand Rip Skirt for their rip skirts, but I didn't know until recently that they actually sell other stuff, one of those being dresses. And so if you're not aware of it, you might be walking right by them. They actually have a decent sell-through rate, and they sell for quite a bit of money. So definitely keep your eye out for Rip Skirt. It's basically the same type of material that they make the skirts out of. This one was a size extra small dress. I listed this for $40. We picked it up from the bins, and this one did sell for our full asking price. This one took about 2.5 months to sell. Another style-based dress, one that got reworked. This is a Jacqueline Ferrar plus size velvet dress. Typically, I love during this time of the year to pick up velvet all over dresses. I've talked about it in many What Sold videos recently, but they just sell so well for me, even if they're super plain. However, this one, with it being a larger size, I actually think decreased the likelihood of it selling because people looking for these witchy velvet whimsy goth dresses are typically not the more mature plus size crowd. I'm not saying they never sell, but again, the likelihood of it decreased. And so I think that's why it sat. Got this relisted, and it sold within about a month and a half after relisting it. I listed for $40 or best offer, and it sold pretty quickly after getting that relisted for an offer to watcher of $34. This is another item that I had to rework. This was listed back in May 26th. For this one, reworking was just dropping the price. We're kind of again in between doing things with some of these aged inventory. This is Smart Wool, and we listed it back in spring, which is why it did not sell. But now that we're in the appropriate season and we've refreshed that with a drop price, it's sold on an offer to watcher for $38. Smart Wool is a brand I would definitely be picking up right now. This is their logo, and they perform really, really well during fall and winter. And they sell more than just base layers, which is what they're known for. They sell sweaters, they sell dresses, lots of things. So keep your eye out for them. I find them pretty frequently at the bins. Next up is a vintage Free People skirt. This one was a semi-recent pickup. It took about 2.5 months to sell. This is a Y2K style Free People skirt. With Free People and Anthropologie, I tend to stay away from the older stuff, but if it has a trendy style, some of the Y2K vintage looking stuff, kind of novelty looking stuff, actually does perform well for me. This was definitely one of those pieces. The ribbon details along it, even the black color in contrast with the brighter colors, very on trend right now. I picked this up and included vintage, Y2K, and some other keywords to get this item to sell, and it did fairly quickly within my 90-day period. I listed this for $40. It sold for my full asking price. Next up, this is definitely a rework. This one sold within just a few weeks after getting it relisted. The brand is not one I would memorize. It is mainly the style, which are men's suede or leather bomber jackets. Those perform really well. I listed this originally in warmer weather and thought I had a competitive enough price. It did not sell, and now we're back in the colder season. So we decided to go ahead and rework that, and it worked. With some of my items, if it hasn't sold, I will sometimes put it on an AI model to kind of elevate it and get it to sell so that the buyer who might be looking for that style can really see themselves in it. And so I created this image with ChatGPT, and I do believe that is what sold the item. I relisted this for $40. It sold on an offer to watcher for $34, again, just a few weeks after getting it relisted. All right, this is a Y2K shirt, and if you look up Miami Ink Y2K men's shirts, not a great sell-through rate. However, you gotta know what you have in this Y2K stuff, because depending on the way you search and how much you filter, if you know the factors that increase value, then you'll be able to pick up style-based stuff like this regardless of the sell-through rate. This is a men's Miami Ink, definitely a Y2K thermal shirt with a large graphic on it. It was also a larger size, and it's coming into the appropriate season for that thermal. And so for all those reasons, we picked this up. I listed this for $30. It did sell for full asking price, and this one took a couple of months to sell. Something else I'm looking for in Y2K is Juicy Couture. If I see anything Y2K Juicy Couture, I am at least looking it up and seeing if it would be a good pickup. Their velour stuff does really well, and their terry cloth stuff I find does well. So this is like a terry cloth towel feeling dress. It was very Y2K, had a lot of cute details. I only priced this for $30 because that's what comps were suggesting. Got it from the bins. It sold on an offer to watcher for $25, and this only took 9 days to sell. All right, this one was another rework. I ended and relisted this at the beginning of September, and it just now sold, so about a month, maybe a month and a half. This is a legendary Whitetails men's Y2K hoodie. When it comes to men's Y2K stuff, I do find that the outdoorsy Y2K stuff, the camo stuff, actually does perform well. Fox Racing would be an example of that. Legendary Whitetails would be an example of that. And so anytime I see a Y2K men's type of like camo item, I'm always looking it up. When I actually picked this up, it did have good comps, but again, sat through the season. And so I've relisted it, and it sold pretty quickly after that for my full asking price of $30. Next up, this is a Bolo brand that has a really awesome sell-through rate in just about anything. It is Vu. Here is one of their logo patches, and most of the time the neck tag is missing, and so you do have to look for little patches, little logos, sometimes the stuff on the inside. I made a video recently talking about brands that had over a 100% sell-through rate as a whole, and I had a lot of people tell me that they've never found Vu. I find it even in a small town, and I think the reason a lot of people don't find it is because they don't know what they're looking for. So they might just see something plain like this and not realize to look at the logo. So you just want to pay attention, really feel the item, and get to know what Vuori feels like. So I listed this one for $34. $25. It sold on an offer to watcher for $30, and this one sold just 6 days after getting it listed. Next up, this is a style-based piece. This is a Coldwater Creek, larger size with patchwork all over details in a jacket. Really cool piece. With style-based pieces, sometimes if it's not like really screaming a certain aesthetic, or maybe there are some details that are kind of dragging down the likelihood of it selling, I want to make sure to price competitively more than I want to get a full price sale, because I want these items to move. So this is an item that I felt like had a couple of factors decreasing it, although it was a really great piece. And so I listed very competitively at $30. It sold on an offer to watcher for $25. I originally paid $25 for this, and this one took a couple of months to sell. Next up, this is a Y2K top, which again is another one of my top selling categories. This is just the brand Self-Esteem, but it is a little Y2K baby doll top with some sparkles. People love this super cute, like mall brandsy stuff. Listed this one for $30, and it sold for my full asking price of $30. This one took about a month and a half to sell. Here is another Bolo brand. I just recently did a comp search on Bombas, and they actually have a really great sell-through rate. The problem with Bombas is that they don't sell for a ton. So depending on what you're grabbing, you may only be looking at like $15, but if you can get a more substantial piece like a long sleeve merino base layer, sure, it's going to sell well. Bombas at the bins, I would pick up almost anything depending on what it was going to sell for, but very high sell-through rates, and again, their merino wool base layers sell very, very well. I listed this men's one for $30. It sold for my full asking price of $30. We got this from the bins, and it sold within just a couple of weeks of being listed. Another style-based piece, this is Sienna Sky. Not a brand I would memorize, this is completely style-based, but we picked this up from the bins because of its style. I used the keywords milkmaid, coquette, fairy, and all in all, it was mainly the silhouette of this dress that made me want to purchase it and flip it, because it is a very trendy silhouette. Listed this for $35. It sold on an offer to watcher for $30. This one took a couple of months to sell. Next up, this is a great brand to look for in plus sizes. It is Parsley and Sage. The brand as a whole does okay, but if you have a large plus size, it is going to perform even better. This is a very vibrant artsy top. I listed this for $25, and it sold for my full asking price of $25. This only took 4 days to sell, and it's because we priced it competitively. Next up, this was another item that we recently reworked. This is not a brand I would memorize. I strictly got this for factor stacking. It is a plus size velvet embroidered top, which performs really well for me. Listed this one for $25 when we reworked it, and it sold for full asking price of $25. And after getting it relisted, it only took 7 days to sell. Another style-based item, this is also very milkmaid type aesthetic. This one is a top though. It is not a brand you want to get. It is Windsor, but the style itself is a brand you want to seek after. I could have used a ton more keywords in this, such as Renaissance or maybe Oktoberfest, because I could see it being in that outfit, but it's the silhouette that is really selling this item, and you can do this in pretty much any brand. You just, again, want to price competitively. So I listed this one for $25 because it was kind of a cheaper brand, and it sold on an offer to watcher for $21. This one only took about a week to sell. This is another one I showed in a recent thrift haul. I go to these fill-a-bag sales in my local area, and I can sometimes get items for 25 cents or even up to $1. This is a modern Arizona jean company skirt, not a brand you want to get. However, testing out the style of skirts, I've been doing pretty well with the longer length, the kind of floral, grungy looking ones. And so I picked this up priced very competitively at just $20, and this flipped within just 3 weeks of being listed. So I think I'm going to continue to get stuff like this and maybe inch the price up to $25 and see how it performs. And last one on eBay before we dive into some of the Poshmark sales, this is another bread and butter I look for, which are down feather items in brands that I wouldn't normally get. So Uniqlo is a brand that I don't get in a whole lot of things, but when it comes to puffer jackets or vests, that really elevates the value of pretty much any brand. So I'm always looking that up. So this is a Uniqlo women's packable, so more lightweight puffer vest. I listed this for $25. It sold for full asking price of $25, and this sold within about a month and a half of being listed. This is another item that I picked up at the bins. And one thing I like about puffers is even though they are outerwear, because they're so lightweight, they really don't weigh that much, and you can pick them up for like dollar, sometimes less, and the packable ones fold up really nicely and still fit into inventory, and they're super easy to ship out. So I'm always looking for stuff like this. So keep your eye out for down pieces. If you see them in brands that you wouldn't normally get, I would say at least do a comp search. All right, next up is a brand I have been finding a lot of recently. It is Fry. They are well known for their leather goods, and I have come into quite a batch of some. This is a pair of Fry loafers. Now, there's a difference between Fry and Fry and Co. Fry and Co is like a modern diffusion line, does not sell as well. If you just find Fry, it's a more high quality leather, and that's the one I think people search for. So these are a pair of driving loafers. Here is the Fry logo too, in case you want to look for it. But Fry in general, if you can find some of the higher quality leather and in a style that people are looking for, such as a loafer is pretty trendy right now, it's going to fly. And I intentionally priced competitively due to the wear on the leather of this one. I listed it around $35 and someone sent me an offer for $27 on Poshmark, which I went ahead and accepted. These ones sold within just weeks. Another super quick flip. This is a Maeve by Anthropologie dress. It was 100% silk and it was longer length, so that's the main reason I grabbed it. The side slit of this dress was just slightly coming undone on threading, but we weren't able to work it, so we just listed it as is and priced competitively, and it still sold very quickly on Poshmark for $40. So I made quite a bit of money on that in a short amount of time. But again, the key is pricing competitively and trying not to pick up things with flaws. I just picked this one up because I thought that we could fix it and it was a more substantial piece. This is another reworked item. This is the brand Draper James. I don't have as much luck with this brand as I used to, but they make some pretty trendy pieces. This was a gingham plaid dress. Gingham plaid is pretty trendy right now. It is longer sleeve, but I did feel like I would have to elevate this item in order to get it to sell. So I put it on an AI model using ChatGPT, and it sold very quickly after doing that. I listed for $35 and it sold on an offer for $29. Here's another great bread and butter item to be on the hunt for. If you come across any high quality leather vintage boots, whether it's men's or women's, and you can market it as 90s or Y2K, it tends to perform well, and you can sometimes flip them anywhere from $30 to, I would say, up to $100 depending on what you have. This one was not like a super chunky style or anything like that, so I priced more competitively, but they ended up selling on an offer for $30. And these are just Croft and Borrow, completely a style-based pickup. I just got these and got these listed. They flipped almost instantly. I came across 2 pairs of men's Dr. Martens boots at a thrift store, and they were actually not priced up. I was super shocked. And both of these I listed for close to $100, maybe slightly under. They were in excellent condition, but the leather had some wear. These ones were called the 1460 Crazy Horse leather boots. When it comes to Doc Martens, I always look up the exact style, because the exact style and the exact size could be the difference of like $50 in your pricing. So I really heavily looked in each and every style of the Doc Martens that I came across. And these ones were the first one to flip. Somebody offered me $74, which I thought was competitive, and I went ahead and accepted. I could have held out for maybe up to $20 more, but again, I'm in the business of moving items. This was another super quick flip where I accepted an offer very quickly. This is Denim and Supply by Ralph Lauren. Ralph Lauren in general and their lines in men's stuff perform very well for me, especially a more substantial piece like this. This is a men's very thick sweater. It was a size extra large, which is aiding in the price, and it was shawl collar. If you guys see this collar here, make sure to include it in your search because it can make a big difference on your pricing and sell-through rate. I listed this one for $45. Somebody sent an offer of $34 and I went ahead and accepted. This is one where I use the keyword heritage. That's a word I've been using quite a bit with men's stuff, where it's more of a classic core aesthetic piece, and it seems to be performing really well for me. Here's another J. Crew women's blazer, and oddly enough, it is also velvet and it's also pink. So I don't know what happened. Very interesting pink velvet blazers, both in J. Crew. This is the Park blazer in a size 2. This one I accepted an offer of $38 for. This is another velvet blazer, but it is way different style. This is the brand April Cornell. This is a brand you want to memorize, especially their vintage dresses. They perform extremely well. And just in general, the brand as a whole has a pretty high sell-through rate. This is a women's velvet blazer jacket, and it sold on an offer for $46 very quickly. So I guess velvet jackets, something everybody's looking for. All right, I talked recently in a What Sold video about how I am trying to figure out what kind of work shirts do well, so company branded things. We came across a couple of these Twin Hill UPS shirts, and I think especially because we're close to Halloween, people are buying these up like crazy, so the sell-through rate is really, really high. And surprisingly, this sold on Poshmark for my full asking price of $35. Now every time I'm coming across company branded things that are in popular brands like UPS, I'm definitely looking them up. And lastly, finishing off with a style-based piece. This one is completely unbranded, but it sold for an offer to watcher of $29 simply because of the style. This is a silver, meshy, flowy top. We use the keywords ethereal, whimsy goth, fairy, witchy, and even rave. I love being able to sell unbranded pieces for as much as some of the bolo. All right, guys, so that is it for what sold last week. I hope that you guys enjoyed watching. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.